All right, guys, we're back with another installment of Kill the Knee Shield. We are waging war on all knee shields, and that includes high knee shields. We haven't talked about them yet, but it is another very annoying problem, and it's a different problem to tackle than a low knee shield. So what do I mean by a high knee shield? If Jake is on the floor and we get into half guard, a low knee shield would be where his knee is in the pocket of my hip, right? It's pretty low, it's self-explanatory. A high knee shield would be where he unlocks his legs and he brings it up into the pit of my armpit. And a lot of times this is paired with him grabbing my outside of my tricep. So there's kind of a push and pull motion. It's very hard for me to move here, right? So this can be an extremely annoying frame. He's either gonna be holding me like this, or he's gonna be using a cross shoulder frame and a bicep tie, okay? So this will keep me away and it'll make it hard for me to hip switch over his high knee shield. This is a very challenging and different problem than a low knee shield, right? So we need different solutions to this. And I want to teach you guys not only how to pass the guard, but we're also going to learn how to attack somebody's guard here. And this pass in particular is a very effective way to do this, especially if you like front headlocks, especially if you like darces. So one of the ways that we can get past this high knee shield, if we have a very good opponent who's using cross shoulder frames, which most half guard players should be using them, we have him here, and it's very hard for me to get past because even if I get past the knee, he's now going to push me away with this if we bring his knee back inside, right? So we need an answer to both these issues, right? So one of the best ways we can deal with this is we need to make sure that he doesn't have any positive control over the low part of my arm, so we can pummel to the inside. And now what we're looking to do is take this frame across my body. So I'm going to reach up, grab it, and pull it across my body in this direction. It's usually pretty easy because when they're holding this here, there is a little bit of a push. And this is where people get in trouble with like the new type of passing too, where people lean back and slap the arm and go into drags and try to pass from like a split squat and stuff like that. But the same motion of him pushing away can lend me to pulling it across my body. So when I'm able to pull it across my body, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna take this right elbow and smash his high knee shield into a low knee shield, okay? So we're here, he's got a high knee shield, I pull this across, so I've gotten rid of this frame, and now I'm taking my left elbow and cutting into his hip pocket to lower his high knee shield. And now once this has happened, I'm bringing my shoulder low as it can go, and I'm reaching behind his head. I don't wanna go straight into the darce here because this is, unless you're Tyrotolo and you got those extremely, extremely long arms, you're not gonna get a fully locked darce here. This is too far, right? Unless your opponent is extremely small and you're extremely large, this isn't gonna work. But what will work is getting a 10-finger grip behind the head, and that's all we need. So I reach behind his head and I just get this 10-finger grip here, and I put it on the crown of his head. So now when he tries to extend, it's very hard for him to go anywhere, and I'm starting to actually make sure that I'm playing the control over how much distance he can create here. He can't push me away when I'm locking this 10-finger grip over the crown of his head. Again, we don't want to be too high where he pushes back, it slips off. We don't want to be too low where I don't have enough strength over him. So he goes, I'm not at the end of the lever, he's going to open this up. So I want to be right at the crown of the head, pulling this in. And now I'm sprawling over his hook, or over his shield. So I dropped it from a high knee shield to a low knee shield, and now I'm sprawling over it. And again, we're going to lift up this foot. And this is just like we talked about in the earlier videos. I'm putting my foot under his foot so he can't elevate and start to invert. He can put his foot on the ground, he can put his ball of his foot on the ground and start raising his hips and starting to cause all kinds of issues for me here. So instead of allowing him to do that, I take his foot off the ground. So we start here in the high knee shield again. He's got his frames, he's a good guard player. He's got his frames all set. I pummel to the inside on this one, and now I use his pushing motion. I maybe push in, he pushes back. I pull it across, and I dip my shoulder to crush his high knee shield to a low knee shield. Now I'm bringing my shoulder extremely low to reach as far as I can into his arm. We've made the shape of a darce here. His arm is across his body and he's on his side. Now I'm starting to reach through and grab this 10-finger grip, and I pull it palm towards the sky, and I'm pulling on the crown of his head to crunch him up. And now I'm sprawling on this hook, on the knee shield. I'm sprawling on the knee shield. So once I've sprawled the knee shield, I'm opening up the free-floating leg so he can't invert. And now at this point, it's going to be very easy for me to go back to that mirroring position that we talked about in the earlier installment, where we bring our knee and our hip in line with his knee and hip. So I go from here to here. Now once I'm in this position, I can bring my knee down into the pocket of his hip like we talked about, because we don't want him to bring his guard in. If I'm here he brings his guard in, I'm starting to lose the pass again, right? So when we sprawl, we have this open, we bring this up, now we're bringing our knee and dipping it right into the pocket of his hip. And now we can start to come out, we get off to the side, and we can start to lock up our DARS. So we start to go into lock up the DARS, and let me show you some particular details on locking this. So if we turn this way, Jake, we'll go through this movement one more time. So from a different angle, he's got a high knee shield. I push, he pushes back. I pull this through and collapse his knee shield to a low knee shield. I shoot my hand through as deep as I can. I grab a 10-finger grip. There's no point in trying to lock this here, it's too far. So I just get a 10-finger grip to make sure he can't extend his body. And now I'm sprawling even more. I'm going hip to hip with him on his knee shield. And now I'm opening this leg up. I go hip to hip and knee, mirror the knee. And now I drop my knee into this hip pocket and I start coming around the corner. And now I can start to lock the DARS. What we don't want to do is unlock our hands to lock the DARS. I don't go like this and open it. When I go like this, he just extends his head and he's out. He's bringing his back to the mat. So instead of allowing that to happen, I put my ear onto his shoulder. So it's harder for him to bring his back to the mat. Even if I'm here, it's a little bit harder now, right? I'm putting my ear onto his shoulder to keep him from moving back like that. Even if I come over this way, it's even better. So I'm here. And now, instead of opening my hands, I slide them along each other like this. So there's never a total absence of pressure on his head. I want his head folded in so I can start getting a proper DARS. I don't go like this and he extends and I lose it. So I go here, I start to lock the DARS, and now what everybody does is they keep too much of the shoulder in the lock. Because once the shoulder is in the lock, it's kind of like if you never cut an angle with a triangle and you're just trying to finish it like UFC guys do where they're just like straight on, right? It's not very tight because you didn't get the shoulder out of the triangle. We need a flush connection of his arm and his neck, right? His bicep and his neck on my right side. So when we do this, we're taking our hand along, grabbing deep on our bicep, bringing our hand up, and now what I'm gonna do is take my head away just for a moment and re-cinch it. So I bring my head away like this, and now it's re-cinched. I've gotten rid of this shoulder. It doesn't look like much, but this is a lot more shoulder in here versus here. Now I've locked. And Jake will tell you it feels a lot tighter. Yeah. And now the finishing mechanics are different than what a lot of people tell you. A lot of people will tell you like sprawl on them and go like this. This can work for sure. It's gonna hurt more than it is gonna strangle them. What you wanna do instead is take your right elbow, so my elbow you can't see in this scenario, I'm gonna take it and rotate it towards the ceiling. So instead of sprawling on him and pushing his head, I'm rotating my elbow up. And Jake's tapping already. So he's on strangle point here. Very, very little. And if I take this out, I can go all the way over. And if we need to make it even stronger, we can connect to his legs. So instead of sprawling on him, where it's gonna be even harder for me to connect to his legs, which is really the end game position, no matter what, if you connect to someone's legs, you will strangle them. So instead of sprawling and keeping my legs even further from his legs, I can stay here. I use a rotational finish, and if I need even extra horsepower, I come onto my side. I'm still rotating my elbow up. I'm grabbing onto his legs, and now I'm crunching his head and rotating the strangle for an even stronger effect. And ultimately, if you can get into mount, that's the most surefire way to finish somebody with a DARS. So you can see with strangles, it's very hard to fake whether they worked or not. You can just see it in people's eyes. Their eyes he looks like he just took a giant bong rip. Yeah. So this is a really good way to get past the high knee shield. And this is a really good way to get past the high knee shield, specifically when they have a cross shoulder post and a hand on the bicep. Now we're gonna talk about the last type of high knee shield that you'll probably run into, which is where instead of having this cross shoulder frame, he opts to grab my tricep and hold it kind of like this. So now he has this pulling me here and this pushing me. So it's very hard for me to get any kind of free movement here. So what do we do in this position? I can't move to the DARS because he's got control over my arm. I can't crush his leg because my elbow is outside of his hips. I can't even bring it in to start doing that. So you're gonna ask, like, what do I do when this happens? So when this happens, what we would like to do instead is try to take our arm and put it on his hip if possible, and then take our outside leg up, grab his leg, and start standing. Once I've stood, I can take my elbow and put it inside of his knee. I come here, very easy transition. And now I can keep this pushed low, and I just bring my chest over, and now I've gotten past the knee. I'm taking my elbow along his hip pocket, and I'm bringing my knee into the hole, and now I connect my knee and elbow. So now he can't bring his knee back inside. tries to bring his left knee in. It's blocked by my rib cage. It's almost like shelving the leg if you do singles from dogfight. So once again, he's got this high knee shield. He's pulling on me. And instead of trying to do any of the ones we just did, what we're gonna have to do is stand up with our left leg. It's gonna be really hard for me to pummel my elbow inside if I stay in this position. I really can't do it. But if I bring his legs facing towards the ceiling, it's much easier for me to pummel my elbow to the inside of his knee. So I come here, like this. So he still has his knee up. Yep, we're in this position, knee and elbow together, and now we crash and crowd this hip crease right here, and bring our knee to the floor, and our elbow to the floor, connect them both, and now we have proper control over his hips. We're past the knee shield, and we can start passing chest to chest, which we will cover in the next video. If you guys like these techniques, I also have a lot of these in the free mini course that's available at the link in bio. So go ahead and get that free today, and we will get into chest to chest half guard passing next.